Hey guys, Sean here from Rap Channel. Today I am at Kick Charge Creative in North Jersey. I'm going to be meeting with Dan Antonelli, President and Chief Creative Officer. So let's get inside.
Dan Antonelli from Kick Charge Creative. Here with my buddy Sean. We built this office about 7 years ago in 2017. So we're actually out in the middle of a cornfield, which is kind of crazy. And it took about 3 years for us to build this office. We built it from scratch. We had to design it from the ground up. And we have about 25 people in this location, and we have about 10 people that are remote right now currently. So got to work with the great Roger Cox to build and design our sign here, which is internally lit LED. It lights up at night, is pretty sweet. And then my friend Weston from DJI Graphics actually made that sign up there and hung that from the ceiling, and that also lights up at night.
Okay, show me inside.
All right. So this is from the opening actually, and you came out here for the opening. Here's your signature here.
Oh, look at that.
Right there.
That's awesome.
So that was October 2017. At that point, I think we had maybe 15 employees, maybe a little bit less than that at that point. These are just a few of the awards we've won over the years and some magazine covers that featured on. When we moved in here, we actually also had just changed the name of the company from Graphic Designs to Kick Charge. So that was a big part of the name change. I knew that this building was being built, and that was the time that I said this is the right time for us to change the name of the company. We had kind of outgrown the name. I never really loved the name. So it was really cool being able to just pick everything down to the tile on the floor and integrate that into our branding. So you see everything is very angular here. Same thing with the way our branding is done. A lot of it's very deliberate, very intentional in how we actually designed everything to really make sure everything kind of matched and became on brand. That actually became something pretty interesting for us down the road, because we started doing actually interior design for some of our clients after we had done the branding, integrating the wall wraps, picking carpet colors for them and things like that. So doing our own space actually helped us get more work like that. So it's kind of interesting. This is probably my favorite saying here. Bob Bohonik actually hand lettered that script, and then we digitized it, and then we had that made into a sign by my friend Greg Reed. This is our conference room over here. So when we have clients here, you know, we usually actually have clients sit on this side of the table right here, so they're kind of looking at all the different brands that we've done, and you know, it just works out nice. I actually hand lettered this table here myself, so I actually hand painted this and pinstriped the outline. Went back to my roots a little bit of hand lettering, and
Very cool.
got to work on that. So it was kind of fun. It's probably the first time I picked up a brush in like, I don't know, like 20 years almost. So I really miss hand lettering actually. When I retire, I'm gonna go back to hand lettering. You know, that's my dream.
I think you should.
So obviously we got everything to match and coordinated. Same thing with these carpet tiles. We were able to just pick different carpet tiles and then introduce some splashes of color in here and try to keep everything on brand. And this is our lunchroom. So when we're all sitting in here, it's actually a little tight, believe it or not. First build it, we're like, oh, there's no way we're gonna need all these chairs, and then suddenly we actually all can't fit in here when we have lunch, but it's kind of neat. We got to, again, just pick all the colors, do the same thing with the flooring in here, and have everything really match up nice. one of our designers, Jeff, designed this in Photoshop, and obviously that's a wall wrap here that we have. Then we have the teams here kind of split up for the most part. So we have account team in this pod here. We have writers and content people in the pod after. Design team is over here with them. And then we have some of the different marketing team there back to. So these are all writers here, so they write content for our websites, they do naming, they do taglines, things like that. And Gina in here is the director of accounts. So she manages all the account teams
Okay.
and account relations. And then Kim and Terry. Kim does content management. She's the director of content management. And then Terry is our SVP of operations. So this is Josh here. Josh is one of our senior designers.
Hey, Josh.
Josh has been with us for
It'll be 8 years in May.
8 years. So we hired Josh right out of school. He went to Kutztown University, and he really does a lot of the wrap designs. That's kind of his specialty. So he works with the brand designers, and the brand designers typically work on only one side of the vehicle, and then it gets handed off to Josh, and he makes it so that the install is actually something that can be installed and not this crazy thing that we think we can do. So he's actually really familiar with obviously the limitations and the challenges of the actual production of a wrap. So and then when the proofs come in, Josh oversees just making sure that the colors are all done and making sure they're accurate, and if there's any adjustments that need to be made, he's communicating that then back to the account team, who will then let the client know, and if there's adjustments that need to be made.
Yeah, for sure. And when we check these proofs, when we set up our files, everything's spec'd with a Pantone color. That way, when we get these proofs, we can check the Pantone booklet, make sure everything's printing accurately. That way, if the client does end up going with a different installer, they're matching colors to an accurate Pantone booklet, rather than, if these colors weren't printing accurately and they switched to a different installer, then they would have to, basically color match an inaccurate printed wrap. So that's the main reasons why we're speccing all of the brand colors with the booklet.
And one of the things I appreciate is this area right here. When the design carries over from the side to the back or the front to the front bumper, I love how you guys are killing it at the light here. So it makes the transition, especially for install, so much easier.
Oh yeah, for sure. And a lot of the times, if we're not able to get, these design elements to bleed into the taillight or headlight, let's say, a line's coming up and it's curving right around this edge. If it's curving, we'll still try to get it to become level with the ground. That way it makes the alignment around the rear a lot easier, rather than trying to judge how this angle is going to wrap around this corner.
What do you have here on your screen?
So I actually do have the Legendies wrap open right here. I'm just looking over our final files. Just a quick run through of how we set these up. We have a mask layer that you can toggle on and off. That way you can see all the bleed within the file. We set these files up with more than enough bleed, as you can see. Reason why we do this is so that when we're designing for these fleet graphics, if we have different types of vehicles, we have more than enough artwork to work with, and it makes it a lot quicker for us to adapt this design to different types of vehicles.
And then this is another designer, Corinne, here. So Corinne works on print. She works on a lot of the truck wraps designs as well. She also helps prepare the logo files. So when the logos are approved, we have a whole process of setting up the files and exporting the files. So why don't you just show them one of the PDFs of one of the files that...
Yeah, so I'm actually doing that right now. I'm adjusting a logo for Whale Done, and I just got this from the illustrator, and usually what they do is they provide us kind of everything we need to kind of get going on starting to work with this brand. This is the client's first vehicle, and they do kind of like a rough mock-up so the client can see like what it's going to look like when they get this vehicle wrapped. They include the fonts, the Pantone colors for us, and anything else that we might need in the notes section if the client requested a different version of the logo, such as a different outline or a different, mascot holding something else or facing a different way. All that stuff is included here, so we know. And then when we go to clean it up, we're looking for any sort of potential issues that could cause, problems down the line, such as things not being aligned, extra points in the vectors, things kind of overlapping funny, or any unspec'd Pantone colors. And our illustrators have been really good at kind of cleaning these up as much as possible before they get in our hands, so we can kind of run with them faster and the turnaround time is quicker. So I could show you, do you want to see the logo guide?
Yeah.
Okay.
Show one of the logo guys.
So I just finished one for a brand called Tarnation. They do roofing. So I just packaged up their logo like 2 days ago, and everything they receive is here. So they'll get all the different versions of their logo, all the different files, which we specify in the brand guide here. So this is basically gives them a whole rundown of how to treat their brand as a unit, and obviously not change anything that we've established as designers. Everything is included here, and the various formats of the logo that they can use for things and will use for things, the mascot and the badge. All those things separated, which they all receive, as well as their Pantone colors if they have any of their own in-house design people to make sure everything is staying on brand. The fonts and good practices, stuff to make sure you're keeping in mind when you're adapting your logo to various things, safe zones, and don't change colors, don't stretch. You'd be surprised. And this is also just everything they get and kind of what the purpose of all of them are, and how to, if you're getting different things done, t-shirts, use these files. If you're doing vehicle wraps, use these files, stuff like that. Really nice put together package that includes everything that they would need to kind of run with their new brand.
Very, very cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
And what about your file structure? How do you guys set up all of your files? Do you have a server here, or do you do something off-site?
Everything is on our server. Every brand that we've ever done, including internal stuff as well. So for the design team specifically, I don't know if you're interested in our sort of template process, but everything that a client could possibly order is here in our template. So every folder and every project starts the same. So like, let's say you get a brand launch letter. Everything that the client receives would go in these folders, the copy from the copywriters, our design work, and if we place a print order for that client, we also upload it here, just so we keep everything in track of who orders what, when. All the design stuff is across the board for every single brand. We know exactly where to find the most updated and final design. In case there's changes and tweaks down the line, we can easily jump in. Every client we've ever worked with is here. And it's overwhelming and scary to see them all here, but
It's a few thousand.
yeah.
A few thousand at this point, but every night this also then gets backed up remotely to Amazon Web Server. So we have dual redundancy with the Synology server that we have in the equipment room, and then it automatically goes up to Amazon every night. So it keeps increasing every month. Obviously, it gets more and more
Sure.
expensive every month as we build and save more stuff. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
This is something too, Sean, I think is pretty important for us. Is we really try to reinforce how critical the role that we have for our clients, and how important it is to understand that we need to design as if lives are at stake, because we know how important our work is and the impact it has on our clients' lives. So this is just another reminder, just showing the impact that our work has for our clients. This is Jesse, one of our senior brand designers. So Jesse's been with us for 4 years, 5 years, 4 years?
Just about 4, yeah.
Just about 4. So Jesse is one of the people who basically will build the brand, and create the final artwork files. He'll also interview the client, be on a kickoff, and concept with some of the other brand designers, and present to them. So, for example, he's working on an illustration right now for a client that wanted to go with basically a photo, what we call more like a Norman Rockwell style of illustration. So he's sketching this on an iPad right now, but eventually
That's incredible.
this will go into Illustrator and it will be vectorized at that point. We actually don't do, none of our work is bitmap based. 100% of our work is all done in Illustrator. So even something complex like that, that will get digitized.
And what's this here? What you were?
This is basically the original
Okay.
photo portrait that we're working with to create a composite in a more kind of period style.
Wow. Well done. That's crazy.
Why don't you show them like what an actual pitch would look like on something that you've pitched recently? Just so they get an idea of like how many concepts we show them. What we've actually done is we've hired a dedicated illustrator that sometimes takes their concepts and then actually produces the final artwork in Illustrator.
Okay.
So he's just amazing with Illustrator. He adds detail, adds shading, things like that. So he can take, not that what they do is rough, but he can kind of take that concept and then just take it to another whole level. So he's doing that for a lot of clients. So that's actually been a big help because I think for some of the designers, that's the part that maybe they weren't as excited about, is sort of the nitty gritty details of producing that final piece of art. But he takes that stuff and oh my God, he just kills it. His name is Gary. He's done illustration work for Disney, illustration work for Highlights magazine. Like, he's just amazing. He's actually remote. He's in New England, but his stuff is just amazing. What he does with the files and just bringing them to life, making them 3D, like all this stuff with mascots. He just kills it.
Basically a rendered version, a digitized version of kind of the sketch that I'm doing now and what it'll kind of turn into eventually with vectorization.
Yeah, show him the key to one of that.
Whoa. Oh my gosh. Wow.
It's pretty wild.
That's crazy.
So he's in Basecamp right now. So Basecamp is actually our project management system that's client facing. So all our clients communicate with us through Basecamp. So we really actively discourage direct email communications, meaning keep everything about your project in this portal. This way, if anyone else on the team needs to access or, answer something, it's all in one particular place. So Basecamp is external, and then we use another system called Asana for internal. So Asana is basically our tasks that are assigned to the different team members. So every single thing that we do, whether it's designing a logo, designing a truck wrap, preparing the final files, everything is process driven. So every single task that we have, like to design a brochure, there's multiple steps that have to be followed through Asana. We use it also to track time as well. The time tracking piece is actually really important for us too, because then we could figure out, are we making enough money on this? Are we not making enough money? If we start seeing trending towards, hey, you know what, it's taking us 50 hours to design a logo, and because we're putting more into it, whatever the case may be, like then we can adjust our prices. So knowing those numbers and understanding how important those numbers are really is what drives decision making for us. So Asana is just a great thing, and also it just makes it so it's repeatable, right? So it's not like one designer's idea on how they design a brochure or how they design a truck wrap. It's no, this is the steps that everyone must take and follow those process. So it's really cool because like literally anything that we do, there's a process, there's a set of communications that get sent to the client. Like everything is very much process driven. So
This is just in Illustrator, obviously, so we'll export this to a PDF to show to the clients on a live call where we basically kind of talk about the rationale of each concept. This is kind of an average amount of concepts that we would typically present. We have, typically through 2 to 3 primary brand ideas, and then a few different variations of how that might appear on a wrap or in kind of more of a live environment.
So for every single interaction that the account team has with our clients, we want all those communications to be consistent, right? So it's not each account person's interpretation on how this communication process should go. It's very clearly defined at this stage. We send this communications, and a lot of it is templated. And obviously we can tweak it and customize it, but it's meant to do it in a way, again, so it's teachable and it's repeatable, so that we can, again, if you're looking to scale, like, you have to have all those processes figured out so that no matter who is in that role, it's the same messaging consistently being personified. So we're really big on trying to make sure that the customer journey is very consistent for every single person, regardless of who the account person is, right? So every single communication is really defined and dialed in, and it took a long time to really get those processes figured out. But once you do, then it just makes it so easy to just keep repeating them.
And how long have you been using Basecamp and Asana?
So Basecamp we've been using probably for 20 years, believe it or not. And Asana, I think, is about, Asana, Jesse, like 5 years? About 5 years.
Yeah, just before I got here, I think.
So we also use Asana because, let's say, for example, we're doing a logo design for someone, and we have 50 hours budgeted for that particular project, and we start using up all the hours, right? We're getting close to the end. We're at like 45 hours. So, and they're still not choosing something, right? So now you can say to the client, hey, listen, we're at 45 hours now. We're happy to keep going. But just a heads up, like, if we go over the 50 hours, then it's going to be 175 an hour to continue, right? So you can kind of use that as a benchmark. And sometimes, as a lot of designers probably know, is as soon as you start telling people it's going to cost more for something, then suddenly they're able to make up their mind a lot faster.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So this is
I
Terry.
strongly believe that.
Terry Briggs. She is our, what is your new title now?
I am the EVP and the Director of Operations and Client Success.
Okay.
It's a
So what does
mouthful.
that mean? What do you actually do?
Everything. I run the day-to-day operations wing to wing of all things Kick Charge. I often say the only thing I don't do is write content or design.
How has your role changed over the years?
I started 10 years ago to take a step back. So the agency that I was at, I was working a lot, and I didn't really feel like I was making a measurable impact day to day on what I was doing. I mean, honestly, it was the funny story was my son had done a community helper project at school. He was in kindergarten, and he was like, well, who do you help? And I was like, no one. And it was like, wow, I'm like killing myself doing all this work, and I'm not really, making an effective change on anything. So I was like, I think I'm gonna look for a job, something that's gonna be better hours, kind of stop being so aggressive with my career and like kind of focus on my kids. And there's this random job listing, 20 minutes from my house, no traffic. And then I met with Dan, and he starts talking about how the entire purpose of his business is to help small businesses and make change. And I was like, and he's like, and we're not like other agencies in that, we don't grind our people to death. It's, people, you've got kids, you could still be a mom. And I was like, oh my God. So when I started, it was as an account executive. So I was, which was like a lower level, like a lot less than what I had been doing at my previous employer. But I started just, kind of learning all about this business because I came from consumer packaged goods, so it was very different, and was managed accounts, and then couldn't keep my mouth shut. I was like, oh, we could fix this, or we could do this, or let's try this. And the greatest thing about Kick Charge is, as an employee, you really chart your own course. Like, it's very open-ended. If whatever you're willing to take on, you can kind of augment what you do to whatever your dreams could be. It's very supported in that way. So it's light years different. But I was like, I can't believe I found a job close to home where I'm going to be able to help tons of people and still be a mom.
And what's the culture like here?
Oh my gosh. I hate to say we're a family because I think that's oversaid. But I would say we are a very close-knit team. Everybody's very respectful of one another, very kind. Like, we have some of our core values are like golden rule type stuff. Like, there's certain like I would almost rather have an employee, come in late or make a big mistake on a file than to be condescending to a team member. You know, you can teach people how to do tasks. You can't teach people to be kind. So we've created an environment where people are kind. They respect one another. They support one another. There's a lot of humor here. We also have a space where people aren't afraid to make mistakes because, you know, if you're not making mistakes every day, you're not living, you're not learning, you can't grow. So we've fostered an environment where you can think outside the box and try new things. And, you know, if you screw it up, well, you try again. So it's, I think, very collaborative and team driven, but it's a very kind place to be. Everyone's very good to one another, which is nice.
One of the key things that Terry also is responsible for and has worked so hard on is really what is the customer journey and what does that look like. And Terry will certainly tell you that I'm not process driven at all. But she literally has been responsible for setting up the processes for every single task that is done through this agency and every single step in the communications along the way. So it's one thing that she's really worked so hard is to make that journey that the client experiences, like, to be seamless, to be very well communicated along every step of the way.
And enjoyable. You know, it's supposed to, I think this is such a heavy topic for so many people, changing things. It's scary. They're afraid. So when you can make it as fun as it can be, you know, kind of like give them some sugar with their medicine, it's more fun for them. You know, I think it's our job to set the expectation of how great this can be for them. So if we approach it with positivity and enthusiasm, and yeah, we can't wait to start, it puts them in that mindset. So it's how do we make it enjoyable? How do we manage their expectations? How do we make them see that it's going to be an uphill battle sometimes? There's a lot of things we're going to have to do, but that they enjoy it. They look at it like a challenge. How do we, you know, make every touch point better than the last? So we try.
Yeah. So in addition to doing all that stuff, somehow she just sold $1.25 million worth of stuff last month also. So
In February, a short month.
in a short month.
Yeah. Wow.
So she basically is the entire brains of the operation. Thank God for Terry.
It's all because I'm a Fruit Loop.
I had an issue with my heart a couple of years ago, and I had hired Terry to basically be the operations manager, but I wasn't letting her be the operations manager. So when I had the issue with my heart, I wound up having open heart surgery, and I was forced to not work. Like, I couldn't work. Like, I was out of commission for like a month. And what I found is that everyone really stepped up and everyone really wanted that more responsibility. And so that surgery was actually 3 years ago, and I've really stepped back since that in terms of day to day. And they've really embraced the opportunity to take on more responsibility. So I think that was an important lesson for me to learn, is to just not be involved. And I'm more of the mindset now is just like, okay, like, here's something I think would be cool to do. I'm not going to tell you at all how to actually do it. You just figure out what you think is the best way. So a lot of times, you know, hey, we're going to do this. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I'm not going to tell you how to actually figure it out. You know, you just do whatever you think is going to work.
So it seems like you definitely learned a lot through that event, the traumatic event in your life.
Mm-hmm.
What else changed after that event for you?
So, I mean, not dying was really kind of cool. That part was awesome.
Yeah,
so I think the idea of a more mindset based on gratitude. So you're not just grateful for actually not, I mean, you are grateful for not dying, but you're grateful for the people that you have that allow you to, you know, build this amazing company, right? So I've really tried to think about what more can we be doing for the company and our employees, right? So how can I help the people that work for me achieve their dreams, whether it's to go on this crazy vacation or buy a home or buy a car? Like, what are we doing as a company to support their dreams? Because it can't be all about Dan and his dreams, right? So I need their dreams to fit inside my dreams. And that sort of mindset is, how can we do more for the company's employees, rather than, like, I can't be the only one winning. Like, I need everybody to win here, and I want everyone to win here. So there's a great book by Tommy Mello called Elevate, And if you guys check out that book, it really is just talking about building a culture where everyone within the organization can win. And I think that that's really something we've been working so hard on, especially over the last year, is just trying to figure out a way that we can pay our employees more, offer more benefits, more perks, and just create a much better culture. So that's been great. And even like when we do recruitment, it's been so interesting to see how many new employees we got as referrals from people who work here. You know, like actually Jesse, his wife Erica, actually came aboard because of him. Like, so he recruited his wife to come work here, basically. So, you know, having that culture, I think, is so important and so critical. And, you know, I'm just more in the mindset, okay, how can we do more for them? What other things can we do? Like, I want to try to figure out more ways to do more for them. And that's kind of really what's driving a lot of our decision making is, how will this benefit the employees and what things can we be doing more for them? And it's just also a lot of listening, right? So what else, what are they saying that they want? What are things that we can help them with? Some things you can't help them with, right? But, you know, what are simple things that you can be doing? You know, we pay for lunch every Friday. We buy coffee for them. We do the work from home on Fridays because people were asking about that. And, you know, we have some flexibility where if you need a work from home day, you know, in addition to the one on Friday, like we do a lot of that stuff. You know, we have a pretty good vacation policy. We have a 401k, you know, all those things.
How many employees do you have?
I think at this point we have 34 or soon to be 35.
Okay.
I think. And when we moved in here in 2017, I think we had 14, I think, approximately. Wow. So within the last 6 months or so, we've really been trying to scale and we're trying to grow. We're trying to figure out how we can change even more people's lives. And that's really what's been driving a lot of what our plans are, is really trying to figure out how can what we do, how can we scale it? Like, how can we offer it to more people? How can we help change the lives of more businesses? And that's really, I think, been our most successful mission and value, is based on the idea of our work can change lives, like, and design as if lives are at stake. And I talk about that. I think people maybe think that that's kind of, I don't know, too pie in the sky, or it's kind of like bullshit. Well, what do you mean design as if lives are at stake? I'm like, well, you look at the work that we do and how it's impacted so many of these owners, and yeah, we've changed the lives of a lot of people. And the people that work here understand and respect that responsibility. And that's certainly something I wish more wrap companies respected and understood how important that responsibility is. You're playing with the livelihood of, a small business. Like, if you don't know your craft, you could really hurt their chances of succeeding. So shouldn't you be doing everything in your power to make sure you're as good as you possibly can to help them succeed?
If I'm a small business owner and I own a wrap shop, what can I do to better my skills if I don't have a branding background or a design background for that matter?
Yeah.
What can I do?
So, I mean, there's a lot of content that you could be studying. There's a lot of books you could be reading. Learn as much as you possibly can on the subject. Like, you don't have to go to design school to understand how branding works. And also just hire people that complement your skill set. So, for example, like when I started this company, I'm really good with typography. Like, I can nail type really, really well. What I can't do is I can't draw. I can't draw a freaking thing, right? And that's why I hired an illustrator, because I couldn't draw, right? So hire people that complement your skill set. You know, you may be really good in marketing, but maybe you do, maybe you suck at typography. Well, get the right team around you so that you can complement your skill sets and invest back into yourselves. Like, you think about, the book that I wrote here, like literally every single wrap shop in the world should read this book.
I agree.
Right? Because this is exactly the market that they say they want to do. Hey, I want to do fleets. I want to do more commercial vehicles. I want to do, I want to work with home service companies, big home service companies. Like, this is kind of giving you the blueprint on how to actually do that. But how many people have bought the book that own wrap shops? I can tell you right now, not a ton.
Wow.
It's like, well, why not? But so learning as much as you can about the subject and understanding. And it's sad sometimes because you see someone investing in a wrap and you see it posted online and it has almost no chance of success.
Mm-hmm.
It has almost no chance of helping that business that they are trusting you with. And it's disappointing to see.
Mm-hmm.
I wish the industry had a little bit more focus on the importance of design, and not so much focus on how well you can install.
Yeah.
You know,
One of the things I appreciate about you and the fact that you wrote the book, and I have read the book, I have a couple of your books, is that you want to see other wrap companies succeed. You want to see other designers succeed in branding the right way. You've even congratulated something that we posted online, like you actually like this brand. And that made my day. I'm like, wow, the master. But it's important. And I think it's really important for people to read your book and watch your videos and visit your website and check out the different brands, because our job as small business owners, wrap shop owners, is to educate the end user. It's to educate these people, especially when they're coming in with no idea what they want. My son drew this thing and I want it on the side of my vehicle. Well, let's take a step back and really understand what your focus is, who your audience is, and let's talk about brand. So it takes a lot to be able to step back and slow the process down and educate the person, I think. And your book and all of the information that you're putting out there helps tremendously. We have even directed people to your website, not to send business to you necessarily, but to show them what real branding looks like, especially from a home service business. So we're now using you as like showing the customer, this is what you should aspire to look like.
Mm-hmm.
You can, if I just look over here at this wall, I can see every one of these from a distance. And that's the goal, because that will then translate into success and a return on their investment.
And I think to your point too is like I want designers to win. Like, I want designers to get paid fairly for their work. That's why I get crazy when I see people saying we don't charge for design. It's included in the wrap. Last month we had a record month. We sold $1.25 million worth of work last month alone, and out of that there was $700,000 worth of branding, and there was $300,000 worth of wrap design alone.
Did you hear that?
So wrap design
Wrap
alone is
shop.
300,000. So we're
crazy.
pacing over $3 million worth of just design for wraps. So I'm not talking branding, just design alone.
Now,
But
you mean
so-
you printed the wraps and you installed the wraps too out of that 300,000?
no, just design.
Right.
Design. We don't do any printing and installing.
Yeah.
We leave that to experts.
Uh-huh.
So there is money to be made in design, as long as you can provide the value to go along with it.
Mhm.
And people think, oh my God, charges so much for their work. And the funny thing is like anybody that goes through the process of getting a brand from KickCharge never arrives afterwards when it's completed and says, oh my God, I overpaid for my branding. It's always like, man, that was the best investment we ever made for this company. And so I want all designers to try to make as much money as they possibly can and get paid fairly for their work, but in order to do that, you need to respect the craft, you need to understand the craft, and you need to invest in yourself to learn as much as you can to make sure you're advocating solutions that actually will in fact work for the company that's trusting you with that. So embrace that responsibility. That's what I say to everyone, like, embrace it, like, accept it. Imagine that it was your company and you were creating the brand for it, right? Wouldn't you do everything in your power to make sure it was the best it possibly could?
Absolutely.
Like, every single person that walks into your shop that needs a wrap and doesn't have branding, you have a responsibility to understand how to actually do your job well, right? So, read some books, learn about marketing, understand their world too. I think that's the other thing too, is like, once I really started getting engrossed in the world of home service companies and understanding what their day-to-day looks like what is their daily challenges, what are their problems, how is the brand not helping them or not working for them, and what are the results of that, right? So we looked at, like, for example, like you hear a home service company say, we can't hire anyone, no one wants to work for us. Well, that's a lot of it sometimes is related to branding, because it doesn't look like a place that I want to work for. The next problem is people say, well, we can't charge as much money as we would like to, home service companies. So again, that's a brand problem typically, right? So how branding affects average tickets. So again, once you start arming yourself with the knowledge of what their world is like and how your design solutions can help change their lives, it becomes much easier to sell. Like if you say, hey, you know what? If you get new branding and new truck wraps, you're going to be able to lower your marketing spend. You're going to be able to have a higher average tickets. Your recruitment's going to be easier, and your conversion rates on your websites are going to double. Like, well, what owner is saying? Oh my God, well, that's bull. I'm never going to pay you to do that. Like, of course they're going to do that,
course,
right?
yeah.
So again, just understanding how critical it is, your role is in their marketing, and how important the vehicle is. I mean, oh my God, the vehicle is the number one representation of their brand. Like, if you screw that up, everything else gets screwed up too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how many times people search them online, how many people know what they do, brand promise, everything gets screwed up. So just embrace that responsibility. And I think we wouldn't be here today if we hadn't really fully embraced that notion that our work can change the lives of these people.
So Dan, do you bleed branding?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think it's sometimes I think it's a sickness, because I can't help but look at things and wish that they were better, or look at ways to improve it. Like if you're driving down the street, you see a sign, you see a van,
Yeah.
and it's shitty, and you're just like, oh my God, like I could fix that, you know. So I think in general, I just want things to be the best. I want to give each owner the best chance of success. I think that's ultimately what I lament when I look at some of this work that's out there, and I'm just like, whoever sold that to this guy really did them a disservice, and it's sad to me, you know. And I wish, again, that responsibility was more talked about. You know, because again, like, okay, so you're 3M certified or you're Avery certified and the install's flawless. Who cares?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if it didn't achieve the marketing objective, you know, what good is it? So I wish the industry talked a little bit more about that piece of it, if possible.
Can you share a story behind starting your business and what inspired you? I know that you got started as a hand painter, but what even inspired you to take that step?
Yeah, so when I was 15, my brother was really into hot rods, and he would get these hot rod magazines, and they would have all these funny cars airbrushed. And I was kind of into cars, but I was more into actually the lettering that was on the cars. And I'm like, oh, this stuff is cool. So I started really actually learning pinstriping when I was, I think 15 is really when I got my first pinstriping brush. And I started doing pinstriping, and I thought this is really cool. And then as you start doing pinstriping, people start asking you to do lettering. So I was like, oh, I guess I could do lettering too. And so I started learning a little bit more about lettering. I started doing some airbrushing, and then I started doing some signs. And then probably, I think I was 16 or 17, I actually hand lettered my first home service truck. It was for a plumbing company. And I got a job in a sign company in Staten Island, and I worked for them. And I learned under this guy's name was Bert Arthur. I think you met him at our open house here when we first opened. And he taught me also, like when we talk about responsibility, he taught me that every single thing that he wanted to come out of that shop needed to be at the level that it could appear in Signcraft magazine. That was like the gold standard, right? Do you remember Signcraft
Yes, I
magazine?
do.
So he was like, you know, that's the level that I think our work should live up to. And it always stuck with me, and I thought, wow, that's a really high benchmark, right? For everything that you do to be worthy of being in that magazine.
Mm-hmm.
But he really taught me those values. He taught me a lot about layout, a lot about composition. I think when you think about the skills that you gain from hand lettering something and being able to actually letter something and then step back and look at legibility, things like contrast, all those elements, you sometimes don't get to experience that firsthand when you're doing it on a computer screen. So I think that experience was really useful for me. He was an amazing artist, really good layout guy, and I learned so much from them. But my parents were like, listen, you're not going to be a sign painter. So I went to college. I got a degree in advertising, which I think was really useful for me. Certainly was really useful for me. And then I started the company while I was working full-time as a graphic designer in New York City. I missed the lettering. I missed working with small businesses. I was doing layout and design of newsletters and brochures, and I really missed the physical aspect of seeing my work out in the space and things like that. So I started the company with the notion that a small business should be able to go to one place and get all these different things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you can get the logo, we can do a brochure, we can design your website for you, we can do all these other different things. And then in my mindset too is I would need fewer clients at that point because they were buying a lot from me instead of just buying one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the whole mindset. It's just kind of interesting. It's 29 years later that's really what we still do. Like, we provide a single source so that you can get essentially everything you need to market your company. And everything will look consistent across all your different channels.
So 29 years later, what was the idea behind the name change, and how long ago did that happen?
So we knew we had a name problem for a long time.
Yeah.
Like, we were called Graphic Designs. It was Graphic D-Signs. 29 years ago, I thought it was really clever because we did signs and we did graphic design work.
Yeah.
But I really disliked it for a really long time. But it's sort of the same thing I tell my clients, is that whole success in spite of a poor brand is not a valid reason to perpetuate it. But I kept on saying, well, everybody knows us. Like, why should we change? And I was like, wait a minute, that's exactly why I tell everyone else that they should change. Mm-hmm. So when we were building this office, I knew that I wasn't going to brand as Graphic Designs here. I knew we needed to change the name. It also just didn't reflect who we had evolved into. So I think that's the other thing to think about is, as you look at your business today and where you started, is it actually reflective of who you have become? Even for you, like the rebranding for Designer Apps, you had a certain manner in which your brand was personifying your company. And then you made a decision that it no longer actually reflected adequately who you had evolved into. You didn't change your name, but you did change the way you were branding yourself. Mm-hmm. And so, it was a little scary going through that process. I was a little worried about it, like everyone else, because we had so much involved in the website and we had so much with organic rankings, and we were worried about losing all those things. But we went through the process, and oh my God, like, I don't think we would be here today if we hadn't changed the name, honestly.
Wow.
It's a cool name. We trademarked it. You can use it as a verb. You could use it as a number of different ways, and it just sort of captures that energy of mm-hmm. what we provide. So it was a perfect name for us, but it was a little scary to go through that process and to sort of throw away. At that point, it was 23 years worth of history, and then embark on this.
But I'm sure now you going through that experience yourself allows you to relate to the customers that are going through that and encourage them. Listen, 100%, we did it too.
100%. Yeah, we do so much naming. Last year we named probably 40 home service companies. Wow. It's become a big part of our business, is renaming companies. We see a lot of companies come to us and they have a name that's just going to be really hard to be sticky in people's minds. So we have that conversation with them and say, hey, you know what, if we change the name, you're going to have a much better shot of people remembering who you actually are. We'll have that conversation from day one, okay. Right? So mm-hmm. if it's, TJS Heating and Air, yeah, that's the first conversation we're going to have, is this name is not going to take you to where you want to go, mm-hmm. right? So we'll discuss why that's not going to take you where to go. I mean, the chapter in this book on naming is actually the biggest chapter in the entire book, because I felt like it was the one thing that so many small businesses get wrong from day one. Literally, yeah. Start the company, you've got the wrong name, day one. It's like, now everything afterwards, I'm going to have to work to overcome that first mistake. So, you look at things like how big the company is, how many years they've been around, and you sort of make some judgment calls as to whether or not it would make sense to change the name. But of all the companies we've renamed, we've never really seen it not work, meaning that they've always increased their revenue subsequent to changing the name. And it's also been a real driver of improved culture, recruitment, ad spends. All those things have been positively affected by the name change. So knock on wood, so far it's never not worked for any of the companies we've done it for.
When's the first time you actually saw a vehicle wrap?
First time I saw a vehicle route. So you gotta understand, like, I had a printer. I had a Versacam.
Okay.
I had the PNC 60 or something like that, and then I had a Versacam. I had two. One was like a ribbon thing. It was like ribbons.
Oh, wow. What year was that?
That was 2007,
Okay.
2006.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had a Versacam. Though I didn't know that you needed to keep the Versacam plugged in. So I destroyed the heads on it apparently because they got all clogged because I didn't have it cleaning. But I think the first time probably that I saw a full wrap at that point was probably around 2005 or 6, right?
Okay.
That's probably when they started. And you know, the funny thing about wraps is I used to like lettering one side of a van, and then I was so bored after that. I didn't want to do the rear or the other side. Like I was done. Like I was checked out mentally. Like I didn't want to do it. So we actually sold our Versacam in 2007 and went completely design only from that point. So I had no plotter. I had nothing at that point, and we were just purely design. And sometimes I miss, you know, squeegeeing stuff here and there, but I feel like I was never great at it, but I also feel like in my defense, they didn't have really good vinyl at that time.
They certainly did not. They did not.
So I would have bubbles and I'd be popping bubbles, and, you know, I used to like to do wet applications, I think, and everyone's like, no, you gotta do it dry, and I would get bubbles. So I don't miss that world though. I really don't.
So what about magazines? That's what I think Signcraft is when I first heard about you and your business. I don't remember the year. It was probably right around 2006, though, 2007. Could have been. So when was the first time you were in the magazine, and when did you write your first book? What year was that?
So I actually got featured in Signcraft in '97. Believe it or not, it was actually before I had even quit my day job, which is really funny. So I quit my day job. I got published in Signcraft and started from that point actually writing for Signcraft. And one of the first articles I wrote was doing prismatic vinyl lettering. Do you remember that? Like when you would do layers of vinyl to get the lettering to look 3D. And so I wrote an article for them on that, and then they just started asking me to write more and more articles. And I thought it was a good platform to try to teach more people, again, just the value of design and marketing design. So, I mean, 97 to now, I mean, it's you know, 25 years. I feel like I've been, again, just trying to educate designers as best I can on how to sell more design. Like, how do we do it, and what are the steps that we've taken here? I mean, listen, you got to remember too, like saying, hey, we're going to be design only, and we're going to design wraps for people all over the country. Like that had never really been done, and everyone thought that was really kind of a crazy idea. But you know, that's been obviously really a successful thing for us, and it's also been nice in the sense that I didn't need to rely on people local. Whereas up to 2007, most of my business was local landscapers and, you know, guys that were in New Jersey, because I was physically going out and lettering their trucks. So I think that, you know, the relationship with Signcraft, and the first book got published in '98. And then I think in 2003, I published another book. It was called Logo Design for Small Business 2. And then in 2013, I wrote Building a Big Small Business Brand. And then this book just got published last year. It's hard writing a book. So I think there was a 10-year gap between the other books. But this has been a really good thing, though. This has been really useful, this book. And it's good not just for designers, but it's also good for owners, right? So I think, you know, if you have a shop and you're trying to educate your customer as to why this brand is so important, this is a really good sales tool for you to have them read or check out and have them better understand what it is that you're doing. It also gives you some sort of ammunition. Like if you're advocating for something that they think maybe is a little crazy, and they actually read this book, they're going to better understand maybe what it is you're telling them that they should be doing with their brand.
Mm-hmm. What excites you the most about what you do?
You know, when I go to trade shows and I speak at different events, and you get to experience meeting some of these clients in person, and seeing again how our work has changed their life, that's ultimately what gets me really excited. I spoke at an event in Florida this past November, and I brought 7 of the team down there with me for that event. And they got to see me on stage, which was cool, but more important than that was they got to see all these people that we had worked with come to our booth and just talk about what it's done for their companies and have them express their gratitude. And I think we, as a company, we do a really good job of sharing that with them. So if I get a message on Facebook like, oh, Dan, like, check this out, look at how good this turned out, or oh my god, I got to hire 5 more people this month, whatever it is, like I am very diligent about sharing that message to the team. So we have obviously we have a Slack channel for the entire company, so I'm always constantly again reinforcing the idea of how important our work is and the impact it has on so many people's lives. So that's the part that still is really exciting for me. So we took on an investment partner in June of this year, actually, who invested in KickCharge, and we're basically trying to scale this company and figure out how we can impact even more lives. So that's been a really exciting development for us because we're really trying to figure out, hey, you know what, we could change the lives of 1,000 businesses this year. You know, how can we do that? And working with them to figure out how we scale that's been a really exciting piece that's more recent that we're working on.
Have you done any brands outside of the U.S.?
Yeah. Yep. We've done a bunch in the UK. We've done a bunch in Australia. We were just actually on a call yesterday with a really huge company in Australia that is hiring us to brand. I actually think Australia is going to be a big market for us because Australia is like 10 years behind the US in terms of even wraps and signage and things like that. So we have 2 really huge companies that we're in the process of rebranding in Australia. And one of the companies, he's pretty well known and pretty well looked up to within the home service space in Australia. So I think that is going to be something that actually will generate a fair amount of work for us in that particular country. So it's kind of neat. It's like a whole entire market over there, and
that's awesome.
They're very different in how they look at branding and even how they wrap their vehicles over there. So you know, we kind of look at what we're doing, and people say, I think to a certain extent, like, are we going to run out of work? Like, are you ever going to run out of work? And I just think, oh my God, like we're barely even just getting started. Like, there's just so much work out there to be had. And that's what's exciting for me is like, oh my God, like we literally feel like we're just getting started.
That's great. And it's good to hear that from you too, especially guys that may just be starting out in the business, meaning wrap shop and or design for commercial. Like, you know, the question may always be, well, is the work ever going to run out? Is there enough business, not necessarily just in my region, but obviously, you know, across the country? So it's good to hear that. And there's plenty of bad brands out there that need help, for sure.
There's a lot.
So I think you're right. I know you're right.
Yeah.
If I were to ask a random employee what they like best about working here, what do you think they would say?
I think they would say culture. You know, we have a good team. We have a good crew. They're really passionate about what we do. A lot of them came from big agency backgrounds, and they never felt like their work made a difference. And so to be able to see firsthand how their work impacts the lives of so many people, I think is one of the reasons why they're so passionate about what they get to do every day. So culture is a really big thing. I think as shops try to figure out how they can grow their company and how they can scale and do more for their employees, I mean, approach it from that mindset is what else can we be doing? And I think that you'll find it becomes easier to keep people on staff that are really important to you and align with the vision. And I think it's really important too that people understand what that vision is too. So making sure you're always communicating to them about where it is as a company we want to go and what our goals are. And I think sometimes the rank and file sometimes don't know that as much as they could. So just always communicate to them, I think is really important.
Can you share a memorable moment or story or interaction with a customer that really stands out to you over the past, I don't know, several years?
3 years ago, we got a call from a woman that I knew. Her name is Amanda Triolo. She has a company upstate New York, and she had a mechanical services company. And during COVID, the governor shut down all commercial construction projects in New York. So she was essentially dead in the water. And she called me up and she said, Dan, I need you to help me. I need you to rebrand the company, and we need to start doing more residential. And the name of the company was PMA Mechanical Solutions, I think was the name of the company. And I said, Amanda, I can't help you if you're going to keep that name. I said, because I can't take you to where you want to go. And so I think she wasn't happy, right? So she's like, all right, whatever. And then about 3 months later, she called me back up and she said, okay, I'm ready. And so we changed the name of her company to Grasshopper. So it's Grasshopper Heating and Cooling. And the cool thing about grasshoppers is they only move forward as an insect. They can't actually go backwards, right? So it had this whole storyline behind the grasshopper and why it was grasshopper. And so at that point, the money that she sent to us to do the naming and the branding was like $25,000. It was the last $25,000 that she had.
Wow.
And if this didn't work, they were done. Like they were dead in the water. I didn't know that at the time. I actually didn't know that that was the last money that they had. It would have been a little scary, I think, to probably know that. But since then, she's grown the company to be a $13 million company with over 50 employees.
Wow.
And I got to go up and be at her 3rd anniversary celebration about a month ago. And I took some of the team up there for this. And they throw a big party and they give out awards to employees and things like that. And there's that reinforcement of our why. And that was the embodiment of it, just seeing all these people. And you think about, if I hadn't done that right, if I hadn't come up with that name, if I hadn't figured out how to brand this company and build a brand that had this storyline about moving forward. So the tagline for the company is "Forward is a way of life." And that's ultimately what she embodies, is always, as a company, we're going to be moving forward. She's one of the most talented owners, entrepreneurs, visionaries that I've ever worked with. But seeing that firsthand, and having the team see that firsthand and see all these people that are working there at this company because of some of the work that we did, I think is just a really, really gratifying aspect of what we do. So it was super cool to see that.
That's incredible. How can your business adapt to changes in the market or industry? How are you changing now or adapting?
When you think about the changing market conditions, and you see some people talking about things being slow right now, right? And I think people forget how important the existing customers that they already have are. And they're so focused on trying to get new customers that they forget about everybody that's already used them. So what is your wrap company doing to stay in touch with those people? Talk about the different things that you can be doing for them to help them. One of the things I was talking to a wrap company the other day when I was doing my wrap training, and I was talking to them about packaging things together. And that was one thing that I thought a lot of wrap shops could do, is like, if you could do their logo, then why couldn't you do 50 site signs? Why couldn't you do 1,000 business cards? Why couldn't you design their uniforms? And so if you build these packages, now your average ticket from each customer is higher and you don't need as many customers, right? So trying to think about those in terms of ways to leverage that technology. And if you start seeing that things are getting a little tight, make sure you're still continuing to market to the people that already know who you are. And I think people forget that sometimes.
What's a fun fact about your business that most people don't know?
We've designed more home service brands than anyone in the world.
Okay. Yeah.
Probably 2,000 plus.
Wow.
It's kind of crazy when you really actually think
crazy.
about it.
You're gonna need bigger wall space.
Yeah, we're gonna have to make the boxes smaller. I think.
And then what about you personally? Something that is fun that most people don't know.
I love cycling, so that's something that some people don't know. So I used to race bicycles for probably about 25 years. I was racing bicycles. So I really love riding. I think sometimes my best creative comes when I'm actually outside riding a bike and away from everything. So it's the one time you can really truly be disconnected. So I'm usually out there, and sometimes that's when I have an idea about something. So I think that time is really important. to break away from everything and just disconnect.
Is your bike branded?
It is kind of branded, yes. It's on brand colors.
Okay.
So it's custom painted with our brand colors. So yeah, of course it is.
Are you ever not branded?
So
Can you put your sneaker up here on that?
yeah, we can put my sneaker up there. So yeah, I had to sell my Corvette because it was blue, and I had to get
Just had to.
I
Yeah.
had to, and I got a yellow one.
Why
so-
wrap it? I mean, come on.
So literally, I got so much for having a blue Corvette.
That's so funny.
And when the Z06 came out, I said, all right, fine, I'm going to get a yellow Z06. So I have a yellow Z06 now. So now I'm officially
There you
actually
go.
on brand.
So Dan, when this is all over, what do you want your legacy to be?
I think the legacy that we would leave is the impact that our work has had on so many different companies across this earth, which is crazy to me. So I think we've left our mark already, which is pretty amazing. And if I've helped other designers, if I've helped other companies achieve their goals, then that would be the best legacy I think I could leave.
You've said it so many times. You're changing lives. Like, I understand people may think that's corny and whatnot, but it's the truth. Like you just shared that experience with Grasshopper. Like, that's incredible. And how many other stories are like that with people? You know, if somebody comes to us with a brand that's just garbage and they refuse to change the name, they refuse to really create a brand, then what are we doing for you? Okay, give me $1,500 for a partial, or give me $3,000 for a wrap and send you on the way. And that's it.
Yeah.
He's stuck. He's gonna be a one man, van for forever.
Right.
But with the education that I've received from you as a business owner that understands design, like, you've empowered me to be able to offer more to customers. Now, whether they take that or not is obviously up to them, but there isn't a customer that doesn't come in that's new to us that we don't have that branding talk, especially if they don't have a brand. And there have been few, especially more recently, actually since this book, that have actually committed, and we had the chance to create new brands for them from scratch, and it's been awesome.
Yeah.
And there's results now that
That you can leverage.
yeah.
Well, it's a lot easier to say invest in branding, and here's 60 other companies that had revenue increases after they've rebranded.
So how do you track those revenue increases from them?
I mean, we ask them, like, it's part of our process is to follow up and ask them, like, 6 months, hey, what do the numbers look like? What does the average tickets look like? Things like that. So, and then market them, right? So it's not just getting the information, and then it's also just marketing that information, putting that out there and say, hey, this is their old brand. This is what they were doing in revenue with the old brand, and this is what they're doing in revenue with the new brand. This is their cost per lead with the old. This is their cost per lead with the new. This is their average tickets old, average tickets new. And
Numbers don't lie.
yeah, the data is right there.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to say, oh my God, okay, so this makes sense for me to invest in this branding because will very quickly realize my return on investment.
Mhm.
So data, listen, design is cool and all, and it's really fun to make interesting things, right? But at the end of the day, it doesn't work.
Right.
That's the only thing that matters,
Mhm.
right? So assessing the data and looking at the numbers is what drives direction, drives motivation. Like, so talking to the home service company owner who comes to your shop and being able to demonstrate those types of results makes it so much easier to sell design, because you can demonstrate quite easily, hey, here's a before and after. Look at this old van. You see how this was illegible. You see how you couldn't really read the name of the company. You see how it didn't deliver brand promise. And look how we solved this problem. Look what we did after. And not only that, their revenue grew by X%, right? So you have to structure it in a way so that the person coming into the shop understands the value of what you provide and how you're going to solve the problem. At the end of the day, you're solving a problem.
Mhm.
They're there because they want to get their truck wrapped, but ultimately they're getting the truck wrapped because they want to generate more revenue for their business. How can you solve the problem? How are you better suited to solve the problem than the shop down the road? Shop down the road says, I'm going to do it for free. It's part of my square footage price. Design is free. And you're saying, hey, you know, design's going to be $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, whatever the number is. How do you demonstrate to them the value that your shop offers in comparison? And you do that by demonstrating results. That's the best way to prove value. Because if you can prove value and you can demonstrate that your design work will generate a better ROI than the guy down the street, then the cost per square foot becomes less of an issue than the results. That's the thing I care about. All I care about is results. How are you going to solve my problem? You know, so okay, he's 3M certified, you're 3M certified. The difference is design.
Yeah.
That's really ultimately what's going to be different between your shop and the shop down the road. So the crazy thing about all this RAP certifications is it levels the playing field, but design is the thing that actually can make it so that your shop is distinguished among them.
Exactly.
You know, so that's something that maybe shops could think about in terms of why do we want to invest in design? Well, you want to invest in design because I can do something different than what they can get down the street. And if the design is free, then you're also telling the customer that the design is worthless.
Exactly.
You know, so just think about that. Oh, the design's free. Okay, must not be worth much.
Yep.
At that point. So always design separate from print install. I know some shops don't believe in that, but you know,
No,
there's a lot of money I would have left on the table if
Yeah.
I hadn't done that years ago, even when we did that stuff.
Very good point, Stan. And even going back to certifications, no one has ever walked into my door and asked me if I was 3M certified, Avery certified, this certified, that certified. It doesn't matter to them. Like you just said, most shops are, and it does level the playing field, yes. But what stands out the most is the design and the results that are getting put out.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Of course, we're going to do a great job on the install. Of course, we're going to warranty the work. Of course, we're going to take care of all of those little details. You know, we're going to use the best products. We're going to stand by the work. But at the end of the day, if the work, and you said it earlier, if the install is perfect, flawless, but it's a terrible brand, you can't even tell what the heck it is going down the street, it's worthless.
Who cares?
Yep.
Yeah, sad. So design is definitely the one thing that you can leverage that maybe the other shops can't compete with you on. But everyone can get 3M certified, everyone can get Avery certified.
Yeah.
And at that point, how does the customer know the difference?
Right.
And that really is the other thing. So work on getting the results, work on leveraging case studies, work on figuring out ways in which you can demonstrate to them that what they can get from you, they can't get down the road, and then the cost per square foot becomes less of an issue. It's not like they can just go down the street and get the same exact thing. Why would people be coming to us and paying us what they are if they thought they could get that done somewhere else for a lot less?
Yeah.
Well, they can't. Right? So once you get to that point, then obviously you're able to charge a lot more for the work. If you're just starting out, when I look at what I was doing when I was just starting, I was completely obsessed with lettering, and I was completely obsessed with branding, and I just absorbed as much as I possibly could about that particular subject. So I was immersed into that world. So find that passion, and that passion will drive you and certainly will help you become an expert in that. So a lot of people don't want to invest the time into becoming an expert on that particular topic. But I think for me, growing up and just all my years, I've just been completely obsessed with brands and super passionate about it. And when you're passionate about something, it's not work at that point because it's something you really enjoy learning more about. But I think if more companies just really focused on following that passion and what they're really, really passionate about, the success and the money and everything kind of follows afterwards.
Well said. What do you think is next for the rap industry?
You're going to start seeing AI, I think, play a little bit more of a role in design. We see some stuff with AI. It's very strange. Some of the stuff I'm seeing with AI, like it's not there yet. So I don't know if it's going to improve to the point where it would be. But you know, even with AI, like just noting from a brand perspective, like you can't trademark AI, you can't do some of the things that companies are going to need out of AI. So People ask like, "Oh, you guys worried about AI?" I'm like, I'm not really that worried about AI because it's not at the point yet where I think it actually replicates what we do. I don't think people are going to be able to actually get that from a machine just yet.
No, I don't think so either.
So I think we're okay.
Yeah. All right. Awesome, Dan. Thank you.
All right, man.
Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Subscribe. You can't just like it, you have to subscribe it. Thanks, guys.